Hi there everyone, welcome back to Dandelion Delphi tutorials. If you have just started Delphi and you watched the first lesson, we're going to continue in that same program and learn how to open it and how to code in it. First thing that you want to do is open your File Explorer. That is that little yellow folder that you usually see on your computer to navigate to where you have stored your example program. I have stored mine in my 10 Dandelion data files. And if I double click in there, I will see that folder that I created called example program. Now double click on the example program. You might not see all the files that I have here, but you would see some of them. I have run my program before, so therefore I have this exe there as well. And you might also not see the file extensions, but these are important when we're opening a program. Now I'm going to show you how to show the file extensions in Windows 2010. You will see in the top of File Explorer, there is a View tab. If I click on the View tab, here on the right, I have my file name extensions ticked. You will learn more about file extensions in your theory. If I untick it, I can't see the file extensions. If I tick it, I can now see my file extensions. So I want you to be able to see your file extensions, so click on there. However, if you don't have Windows Explorer 2010, I'm now going to show you how to do it in an earlier version. Here are the instructions of both, but for the earlier version, I need you to follow these steps. Unfortunately, I don't have an example for you, but you might be able to Google it as well. Click on Organize, then on Folder and Search options. There will be a View tab at the top, and then go to the View tab and untick Hide Extensions for Known File Types. That will allow you to see your file extensions, and then just click OK. Before you open a new program, I want you to make sure that there is no other program open in Delphi. For today, just to be sure, close Delphi completely. You are now going to look for the DPR file. So you will see the name of the program. We called ours FRM example underscore P, and there was our underscore U. But what we want to do is we want to double click on the one with the extension DPR. You can also click on the dproj file extension. Both will do the same thing. When you double click, don't be in a hurry, because sometimes it takes a while to open. You can also minimize your File Explorer here to see what is going on in the background and to make sure that you don't try to open the same program more than once. We only ever have one program open in Delphi at a time. You will know that you have opened the program correctly if you see the Run button is green and not disabled. If you don't see that, just close Delphi and try again. Make sure you open the .dpr. When we are coding, we are going to code in events. An event indicates when the code should run. For example, if the waves come close, that is my event, the when, and then the action. What must I do? I must jump. If we convert that example to Delphi, we are going to use a button as the event. When the button is clicked, the following action must happen. I'm going to store the input from the user, and I'm going to display it in the rich edit. To create an event for this button, we are going to double click on it, and Delphi will then create the event for us. Don't worry too much about what you're seeing here. There it says procedure. Every event will be a procedure that we create in Delphi. The action we have to take is to store the input from the user. And we are going to store input from the user in what we call variables. We have to tell Delphi which variables we would like to use, and that is called the declaration of variables. Click on the right of this procedure, hit enter, and type in var. This is now telling us or telling Delphi which variables we would like to use, and we have to list them in here. After typing the var, we're going to hit enter, and we are going to use our tab key on our keyboard to make a space before we start declaring. Listen to the explanation before you start typing. We are going to store 3 values entered by the user that they enter in the edit box. One variable that we are declaring here can only contain 1 value at a time, but we need to store 3 values. So for that reason, I have declared 3 variables. They are like little cup holders that holds different colors of water. And one cup holder can only hold 1 color at a time. Variables in Delphi has different data types, but we'll start off with just the string data type that you can see here on the right. If I declare a string variable, I'm going to start that variable name with the prefix s. Remember previously our objects, we named them with a 3-character prefix, but our variables are only going to contain 1 character as the prefix in lowercase, and then a descriptive short name after that character. So I want to store a name, and I'm going to call it sname. But I also need a surname to be stored in a variable, so I'm separating my second variable with a comma, and then I place there surname, and then a comma, and instead of cell phone number, which would be really long to type, I'm just going to call it cell, as it is still descriptive. We will declare variables with the same data type all in one line. We can do it in separate lines as well, but that's just a little waste of coding time. And when we are done listing our variables, we are then going to place a colon and the data type on the right of the colon. This data type here is string, and strings are used for characters. Yes, I have the cell phone number there as well, but I'm not interested in the number value of it. We want to type in a name like John and a surname like Smith and store it in those variables, and those are all characters that I want to store as a string. Take note that every line in Delphi ends with a semicolon at the end. Press pause and declare your variables to have holders to store the input from the user. Remember when we created this form, we made a change to the text property, and that is the property in which the user is going to enter something when the program runs. So if I type in here John now, you will see it in there. But the user will run the program and then they will type in a different name every time. But take note, it is the text property from the edit box that we have been using when we cleared it. Listen to the explanation before you continue to code. After your declaration, you will see a begin and an end. Yours might be blue. This is just because I have installed the CN Wizard. You can find the link to the CN Wizard on my website as well. So what we want to do is we first want to indicate what we are doing here. Our programs usually have input, processing, and output, but to just get us started, we're just going to have input and output. And we're going to use 2 forward slashes and type there input. This is just a comment to the programmer. Delphi ignores anything that you place after the 2 forward slashes. Now we want to get input from the user. And very important is this is called the assignment statement. A colon and an equal sign next to each other without a space. The assignment statement is in the middle, and it is like pouring water from a bottle into a glass, as the right side of the assignment will give values to what we place on the left of an assignment statement. We are getting the input for the name from the edit box. Remember, we named it EDT name. Now, also, if you have a look at the object inspector for EDT name, It has many properties, so we have to tell Delphi exactly which property we want to get input from. No object will ever stand on its own. It will always be followed with a dot and then the property that we would like to make use of. So to get input from an edit box, we are always going to use the name of the edit box dot text, as that is where the user enters values. And whatever they put in there, I want to pour into my variable called sname. The same now goes for the surname as well as for the cell phone number. Once this code runs here, I will have the values that the user entered stored in these variables sname, surname, and scell. When this button is clicked, the code will always be run from top to bottom. So we will have to get input before we can do processing, or in this case, produce output. Between input and output, leave a line open. It makes it easier to read. We are going to display in the rich edit. Can you remember which property we used to clear the rich edit? As that is the property we are going to use to display in. Remember, that was our lines property. To display in the rich edit, we are going to use the name of the rich edit, .lines.add, and then a set of round brackets. Remember, every line of code ends with a semicolon. You can see it all at the top there as well. Now I want to display the person's name, and I am adding the name of the variable here because that will hold the name of what the person entered before the button was clicked. I also want to display the surname, but it wouldn't look nice if I put the name and surname directly next to each other without a space in between. So to add space, I always call it hardcode. I have to add to my variable, I'm going to add a plus, and any hardcode is the same values that will be seen by all the users. I'm going to start with an inverted comma, push spacebar, end my inverted comma, then a plus, and then my variable. Important that if you open a bracket, you have to close a bracket in Delphi. If you start an inverted comma, it's a single inverted comma, you have to close it as well, as this is where the code starts and ends that will display to the user. In my next line here, I want to add a label so that it says cell phone, and then I want to see the cell phone number. Every user that clicks on this button will see cell phone. That's my hardcode. I have to put it in inverted commas. It's the same for every user. So there I start and end my inverted comma, and here I can type whatever I want. I want to say cell phone and a colon with a space there. And then I want to add this user's cell phone number. So I'm going to add a plus and the variable scell in which the cell phone number was stored that the user entered. Finally, I want to have an empty line after this output so that when the next person enters their values, their name will be separated by an empty line before the second person's values are displayed. And to add an empty line, we're just going to say richedit.lines.add, round brackets, and put two inverted commas next to each other, no space in between, and end my line with a semicolon. Press pause and code this bit yourself, and I'll soon show you how to run your program and at last get some output. This is what your code should look like at the moment. Make sure that you have your semicolons at the end of every line. Now it is time to run the program. It's called running and not playing because we are not the users. If we are the user, we are playing a game, we are using a program, but when we are the programmers, we want to run the program to test if the program is working correctly. The run button is the green button up here. You can click on that, or you can also use the F9 key on your keyboard that will allow you to run your program. If you are getting red lines over your code, Go back a bit and watch the video again. Somewhere on that line, or maybe the line above that, you have made a mistake. This is now the program running. I can see that the program is running because I don't see those dots on my form anymore. It's important to know when your program is running. I can also see that my run button is disabled. There's a pause and a stop button there, and you can see the icon has changed there. At the bottom of the screen, you will also see the same icon appearing. Now you need to type in your own details or anyone else's details in the edit boxes provided. When you've done that, you then click on the click button and you should see John Smith cell phone and then that cell phone number that they entered in there. While your program is running, go and type in someone else's details. When you click now, you will see that empty line that we created and the new details is entered. Well done, you wrote your first program and you can produce output. Now it's important to note when your program is running, as this is the only time that we are allowed to click on this X to close the form. If you click on this form and it's not running, you're going to have a bit of trouble to get back the form. So now that it is running, you won't see the dots here on your form and you can close it because we want to close the program before we continue to code. Currently, your program can produce this in the output, but what I wanted to do is I want to have contact list there at the top. And then I want to have the names there. But can you see that contact list is now only appearing once? Therefore, it's not added in the button because should I add this output in the button, it will appear every time when I click on that button. So we need to find a new place to put contact list as well as the open line in. The event that will run only once is called Form Activate. And to get hold of Form Activate, I want you to single click on your form to ensure that is what you're seeing here at the top of your Object Inspector. Then there's a tab. Here's the Properties and there is the Events tab. You will see on Activate here and then you click on the right of it. Don't select from the drop-down menu. I want you to double click on that event and this will open up the Form Activate event. This event will run as my program starts. In this new event, I want you to code the following between the begin and end. We want to display contact list and after contact list, we would like to have an empty line. Press pause and try it yourself before we run and test our program. Remember, you can use F9 or that arrow there to run your program, and as soon as it starts, you're going to see contact list there, and should I now add values, it is going to have the empty line and the names appearing below contact list. You can test your program further by entering details and click on the click button. You can click on this button multiple times without changing the details of the person, just to see how it works. And can you see now that I've clicked on it multiple times, I have that scroll bar appearing. This button here that we added, the bit button, actually has code written behind it. And should I click on it, it will stop my program from running, which will now allow me to add more code. If you are going to take a break, it is a good idea to then close your program. But remember, it is important to save your program often. So everyone needs to click now on File, Save All. And if you want to continue to code on this program later, you're going to go File, Close All, and you can close Delphi as well. Remember to open the DPR next time you open the program. For more explanations and more activities, you can order my books from my website by completing the e-form, but it's also available on the Etsy store as an e-copy through the app My eBooks. Thank you for watching Dandelion Delphi tutorials. In our next lesson, we're going to deal with different data types and processing. Hope to see you soon.